welcome to the live. Uh, Everything should be working. I don't think. Let me just check the audio just to make sure. Yep, everything seems to be working. Today we are going to talk about Kierkegaard's leap of faith, or Kierkegaard's night of faith is what this video is called, but it's really all the same thing. This is a topic that I've been talking about for a little bit now. Um, and I think Kierkegaard, perhaps his idea of it is the best. And it's something you'll see be repeated in various different forms. Essentially, what the leap of faith is it's the difference between knowing something and experiencing something. And the easiest way to explain it is to, if God was capable of creating everything, then how could we understand something so vast, so powerful, so infinite? And it's we can't. We have to experience it. It's that gut feeling that we don't know why it's right, but we follow it and it leads us to the right path. It's that idea of things. And really that's what Kierkegaard's talking about in the leap of faith. And I hate to say it's like I like Kierkegaard's ideas. I don't like his writing. To me, when you're precise, when you keep your language short, when you're able to say more with less, that's where it really impacts me. Again, my favorite genre of anything is really poetry. And if you can write in somewhat poetic fashion, if you can say a lot with a little, I'm going to like your style of writing. To me, Kierkegaard seems like he has one or two really important ideas and needs to prove it to himself through the rest of the book. And I feel like that's a big problem with not just him, with philosophy in general. You might like that style, it's not what appeals to me, but yeah. And then we're gonna go through this video real quick because it's only like 3 minutes long, and it's I don't know. I love Robert Anton Wilson. He is to me one of the most interesting people you can study because he's I don't know how to say this. Like he's not going to teach you anything. He's going to make you question things, which is perhaps more important. Like the things that I've gained from Robert Anton Wilson are not necessarily he hasn't really said anything in a way that like really sticks, but what he's made me do is he's made me question my way of seeing things. He's made me in some way look at the life I'm following and really see, am I doing it for the right reasons or am I doing it for this? And what I'm believing, is it really true or is it just what I want to be true? And for a lot of people, we don't even go into that level of introspection, but when you do, that's when you really are able to sift through the nonsense, sift through the bullshit, find your own real authentic voice instead of following someone else's, instead of being blindly propagandized by everything around you.
I would
Oh, that's too loud.
like to see what it is that you're talking
I hope it doesn't do this the whole time.
about, that you see where the glitch is, that the power that's vested against people really opening up and having a joyous,
What's up, Zachariah? How's everything?
wonderful celebration of all
Sorry, this is it's gonna do this the whole video. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just look away from the screen
all
for
the
a little
changes
bit.
and options around them from occurring. So how can we beat them? I mean, it's not, I know it's not an overt thing or it's a attacking sort of thing. How are we going to get through the eye of the needle? That's what I was thinking. Yeah, I know you were, and it got pushed aside.
Well, when you define the power elite as somebody else, I regard that as a loser script.
And this is perhaps the most interesting part about Robert Anton Wilson, because a lot of his writing is focused on the conspiracy angle of things, the weirdness of things, how chaotic things are. And when you get into these sorts of spheres, we'll say, or thought loops, or sort of ideas, it becomes very pessimistic. It becomes very like doomer and the world is ending and all these things. But in spite of all that, Robert Anton Wilson described himself as a hopeless optimist. He he used a word I can't remember it right now, but that's the best way to describe what he believed in. He felt that there was some, I think he would consider himself an atheist, but there's some divine order that is pushing things in the right direction, and the good will always appear. Life's been crazy. Yeah, I quit weed and don't know how I feel about it. I'm also looking for a new job. My current job's been whack as hell recently. I mean, that's good. I mean, that's interesting. Yeah. What do you mean you don't know how to feel about it? What's up, Hypnodio? Dude, where have you been, man? It's been so long. I saw you comment a few times last week. I'm like, I'm on vacation. I won't get to talk to him on a live stream. How's everything with you, man? I hope your house got all set up and everything.
I define the power elite as myself and my friends, and that's a winner script. And the way to accomplish things is with a winner script. Like a friend of mine in Silicon Gulch was telling me about a guy starting a new computer business there, and he said he's very optimistic. And I said, of course he is. Pessimists don't start businesses.
Of course he is. Pessimists don't start businesses. And perhaps this is one of his most keen observations that he's ever made. And he's made a whole lot of really interesting insights. But to be a pessimist is to always think the worst. And if you always think the worst, then you never give it a try. And I think so many of us operate off this script. So many of us operate off this idea of things. Right now, I feel like my creativity, what makes me different, has been lessened, but I'm on day 8. I feel like you'll definitely feel like that for a little bit, but I feel like it might go the reverse direction. You know what I mean? Because there's like I don't smoke, but like there's like a little like I don't know. When I was in college, I used to think that like for me to become silly, I would have to like sounds so horrible to say, but like you know how you get like a little buzz going and you get more like goofy and you get more like open and less social anxiety. I thought that was just something that you could only get through alcohol, but it sounds so awful to say. But I've realized it's really just like a crutch and it's really just something that you don't open yourself up to. Like I want you to understand that like however you act on a drug and you feel like you need that kind of same action, I feel like you could that's still you. It's just you're allowing yourself to say, well, I can only do it when I have this. I can only do this when I have this. You're creating a ritual about it. You know what I mean? You sent me a video clip of your latest progress. Did you do it on Discord? I don't really check Discord that often, but I'll check it after this if that's what you did. You're delusionally optimistic. I mean, that's really the only way to be. Because at least if you're delusionally optimistic, then you can point yourself in the right direction and you may fall short, but if you're pointing yourself in the right direction, then you're going to see the opportunities that come for you. Like anything short of perfection is still good. Like you're never going to get your goal in the absolute means of things, but it might end up being actually better. You know, at a certain point, the more success, the more importance that you have in the world, the more it takes away from the rest of your life. So I feel like a lot of people shoot for the top, but they end up a little bit shorter, and that might honestly be better another aspect of things. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, no, I think it's probably for the best because I mean it's like anything. It's like I drink caffeine every day. I know that's not good for me. I know that's something I need to stop doing, but I don't do it. So like it really takes a lot of courage to like break free from a habit that you're relying on. It's one of the hardest things you can do because your habits are just they're part of you. You don't know my email. My email's somewhere on my it's somewhere on my channel if you want to use that. You don't have to. I can just go on Discord, but I know you said you don't like Discord, so you could also just email me if that's easier for you. But whatever you want to do, man, it's up to you. I'm not gonna be like, well, I'm not gonna respond to it because it's on Discord. I'll find it. I was probably gonna like find it at some point because if I reset my computer, it just opens Discord, so I would have seen it when I reset my laptop, but I haven't done it for a few days. Hence why you can probably hear my laptop right now. Jay, it's not like warm enough to open the window, but my all the technology I have in front of me is like making me sweat, so hopefully I don't freeze to death here.
Pessimists don't do a damn thing. Pessimists sit around telling each other how hopeless everything is. It's the optimists who get things done. And so I define myself as a winner. I define my programs as winnable. And I count on the stupidity of whoever seems to be in power to undo them eventually, because, as I said, every conspiracy has a natural lifespan. Every conspiracy collapsed by double crosses from within or by superior cleverness by rival conspiracies.
And what he's saying is so true because there's this inevitability to everything. And like people always want to fight against the system and this and that and all these other things, but everything destroys itself. Everything eventually gets so large and so big that it just has to fail. Think of corporations when they get really, really large, when they have a lot of employees, when they have all these things, they need to keep upping and upping and upping the profit every single quarter, or else it's a non-successful corporation. So eventually they cut some corners and everything goes wrong. And that's the natural life cycle to all of these things. Is it a telos? What is that?
And stupidity has a definite evolutionary function. I am all for abolishing stupidity, but before it goes, while there's still a lot of it around, we should pay tribute to it. It has been the strongest force in human history to date. It has shaped more historical events, battles, wars, politics, more than any other single factor.
Sounds like I'm explaining your job. I mean, it's just the unfortunate reality of everything. It's just the way the system's set up is the easiest way to see it is there's two sets of customers. There's the customers and the shareholders. And this is pretty much most places people work. Um, unless you work for a private company or government, which is or the government, which is a little bit different. But I think if you're working for a corporation, they don't just have to make profits, they also have to have other markers and other things that indicate it's a good company to invest in. Um, so they have to basically please both people. And many corporations now care more about the stockholders than they do the customers, so they just lose the customers. Think of like Disney, um, like Chipotle, all those other things that are just raising prices and giving you worse products and expecting their gravy train to keep coming. Tell us the inherent purpose or ultimate end towards which something is directed. Oh, okay. But do you think corporations are inherently thinking they're going to end, or you think they're going to keep they think in their own, I guess, way that they're going to keep going? So I feel like it's the same thing with like movements. It's the same thing with like charities. Like the point of a charity should not to be to keep going. It should be to completely eradicate the problem. It shouldn't be, oh, once we have this thing, it should be the next thing because that really doesn't do anything except put money in the pockets of people running it. You know, you have to have a task force sort of mentality too. When the police have a task force, they get rid of the problem and the task force is disbanded. More isn't always better, and quality drops when you keep just adding and adding things into a working system. 100% my company cares more about our client than actual customers. Yeah. I mean, that's every corporation though, because every corporation thinks in the short term. Like most of corporations' business practices are to just keep the numbers looking good for the shareholders. So really, it's just you're not going to make good long-term decisions if you're purely thinking in the short term. And unfortunately, people think too shallowly. Not all problems can be eradicated. True, but I think a lot of problems can be made better. But because there's this endless cycle of we got to do this, then this, then this. Like if you just focused on one thing and got rid of that one thing and didn't move to the next, I think a lot of I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say right now, and I can't think of a good example. I'm sorry.
And it's an evolutionary driver. For instance, the stupidest thing that I can remember in recent scientific history was the banning of LSD research in the 1960s. That was the most promising agent of behavior change discovered in the whole history of psychology.
I don't know if I agree with that, but there's some interesting studies, but it's like it's one of those things of like it's not going to help everybody. It would definitely help certain people a whole lot, but there's a lot of people that have been driven crazy by psychedelics. So it's I feel like he's too gung ho on that stuff. I would agree with him to a certain degree, but also not to a certain. New York spent 100 million on homelessness in 2019. Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. But that's also like what you're talking about is the problem with like charities in general is that it becomes a business. People's jobs are trying to fix these problems. So if you fix the problem, then the job goes away. And it really sucks because it just makes the actual funds that people want to give to the people not actually go to them. It really sucks. I don't think you could fix the homelessness problem by fixing homelessness itself. I think you have to fix the economy and fix education and fix other things. I don't think putting money into homelessness really would do anything.
And the government made it illegal for psychologists to pursue that line of research.
That is, I mean, there's certainly people that do that where you can make the problem worse and make more money. There certainly are screwed up people in the world that are doing those sorts of things. I mean, like, think of the pharmaceutical industry. Like, they make more money off of you being more sick. So, I think it's one of the, I don't know if it's, I don't know. Like, I wonder how much money is actually in it if you like take a look at it. I bet you like mass incarceration is much, much more profitable, but it certainly is a good way to launder money if you had to.
Research. We suddenly were back in the days of the Holy Inquisition. And when you ask yourself, what is the function of that kind of stupidity in evolution? Well, what stupidity does is it forces the intelligent to get more intelligent. John Lilly, when they wouldn't let him do acid research.
It forces the intelligent to become more intelligent. Psychiatrists ask them how many of the patients have been cured. You work for a big pharma company. I mean, there's like certain things that I like see the necessity for. Like I don't think like it would be smart to just completely get rid of big pharma, but I think a lot of its practices are very parasitic. But can you even create a system that's not inherently parasitic when it comes to pharmacy? And like this is the whole argument that like if you like get into patent law at all, what the lobbyists for the drug companies basically say is that like the research has become so expensive that without the patent and without the exclusivity, there's no point for us to actually create new medicine because we can't make our cost of it. We can't make more money than we put into it. So there's no point for innovation. And I see the argument for that is that righteous? No. But we're talking about a business sort of way of viewing it. So it's very antithetical to the way I believe. If they could make a pill that made people send checks to Big Pharma, they'd sell it. Isn't that just Ozempic? That one's so scary. It's game theory. The problems can't be solved if we're paying people to solve them. What like I have done no research into game theory. Give me like a synopsis of it. I've heard people say it and like I get the general idea of it, but what does it mean? Because it's one of those things I just don't like. I'm not gonna go buy a book on game theory. I just don't care enough. Like anytime anyone says it to me, it's usually in like the cringiest context ever. We're hitting too close to home. I mean, it's just the reality of things, and it's like you're never gonna be like 100% not against your morale. Like it's pretty much impossible in the modern day world to kind of live a righteous life. Like even if you pay your taxes, it's going to do something awful. Like I mean, it's like what can you really do about it? it's just the reality of the system that's been put forward. It's awful to say, but it's just the truth. All right, we'll get into Kierkegaard because I know this is what Hypnaudio came to watch. I know he saw that and he was like, I need to go see this right now.
One of Kierkegaard's most important concepts, which he discusses in Fear and Trembling in the Preamble from the Heart, written under the pseudonym Johannes de Silencio. There are three spheres of existence in Kierkegaard's philosophy: the aesthetic,
Dude, that's like it's not even just that. It's like every other country is getting tax dollars. And it's not even like I hate how people like when they talk about, oh, my money's going to this or going to that. It's like it's always been going to things that it shouldn't be going to. It's always been going to things that aren't in the best interest of the country. It's like ridiculous. Not even that, people are just stealing it outright too. There's so many tax schemes, there's so many things that are done, there's so many black budget kind of operations. It's so ridiculous. If you think about it for 2 seconds, it makes no sense. Oh, okay. Okay. I see what you're saying, Nadia. No, I was more so like trying to because anytime anybody said game theory to me, it's just so cringy. So I was trying to just look at it from a different context where I wasn't hating on it. You know what I mean? Because everyone that I've heard it from, I've just like, I've completely just tuned out everything else they've said.
the ethical, and the religious. In Fear and Trembling, he analyzes the contradictions between the ethical and the religious spheres of existence. They are spheres of existence because they fill the entirety of your life. While they may overlap, you'll always be in one of these spheres. Kierkegaard considered himself religious, but Johannes admits that he lacks faith, for he cannot make the leap. Johannes recounts
Kierkegaard's very interesting because he's an existentialist, but he's also a Christian, which seems somewhat kind of contradictory, but you'll kind of see how he ties this together. And why this seems contradictory, if you don't know existentialism, somebody's gonna get mad at me for saying this, but essentially it's just is that you assign your meaning to things. That things don't have inherent value until you give them inherent value. That's it. But how can you be a Christian at the same time as this? Because a Christian comes with all sorts of ideologies and doctrines and things that have set value and importance to it. And how can we bring these things together? How can these things make sense at the same time? Perhaps that's what makes Kierkegaard one of the most interesting existentialists is that it's he doesn't tend to nihilism in that sort of way that the other ones do. At least from what I've read, it doesn't it's not as depressing as the other sort of existentialists.
the biblical story of God telling Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac. The ethical expression for what Abraham plans to do is that he's willing to murder Isaac. The religious expression is that he's willing to sacrifice Isaac. In this contradiction lies the very anxiety and stress that can make one sleepless. Abraham is not to be understood as someone who could decide not to believe that God existed. His choice concerns rather what one is to hope for.
Game theory is a valid thing, but I don't think I'm using it properly here. Nash was a mathematician. That guy played by Russell Crowe from Beautiful Minds. I've never watched the movie. The only knowledge I have of it is Kurt Metzger in a podcast was like, yeah, he was talking about how you go for the uglier chick instead of the hottest one or something, and that was really like what made him a genius. I was just laughing at how he explained that. I butchered the joke completely, but I wish I knew where to point you to listen to him explain it. It was so funny.
Or expect, given that God does exist, to prove his faith to God. He is, after all, the father of faith. Abraham is entirely alone, and he cannot justify his actions to anyone. He renounces that which he loves most in the world, and thus becomes a knight of infinite resignation, the first step one must take to become a knight of faith. As Abraham is about to sacrifice his
So what he's saying here is very important because Kierkegaard is placing the importance of faith above the importance of everything else. And you might not like the importance of faith might not make sense to you, but think of faith as in belief in something higher, belief in something better. Think of it as some sort of purpose, some sort of fulfillment. And on your course, on your path, you're going to be discouraged by a million things. You're going to be told by this person and this person that you can't do it. You're going to be given every indication that what pursuit you're following, you will not get to. But in spite of that, you have to keep going. That to me, that's what faith means. And when you put faith in something above everything else, that is truly the greatest reward that you can ever have in any sort of existence. Think of anything that has ever been done. The person first believed in themselves first. They didn't take any steps, they didn't take any action. They believed in themselves first before any external results occurred and before anyone was able to discourage them. Everything is twofold. One, you have the idea, and two, you have the belief in that idea and you carry it out. You need these two things in order to accomplish anything in this world, and that's why faith is so important. I understand how seeds work, but I can have faith that if I plant and water it, it won't starve. Even that is like magic or metallurgy or alchemy. Dude, the more you learn about alchemy, like I used to think it was interesting, but the more I like read what these people are actually doing, I'm like, these people are just weirdos. Like it's their rituals are so weird, dude. I've been like, I don't even know if I want to say researching it, just like, sorry. I've been finding information on it. It's just like, oh God, I can't believe I ever like thought this was like something cool. I thought it was simply about like making yourself a better person. It is not that at all.
Son, God sends an angel which points him to a ram that he is to sacrifice in Isaac's place, and Isaac is ultimately saved. Abraham makes the movement of faith when he regains him once again. He comes back to his original position and receives Isaac more joyfully than the first time. By renouncing everything, he receives everything. Abraham
Because he was steadfast in his faith, because he did not question God, he did not question what he believed was the right thing to do, he was rewarded for it. And this is really the importance of this metaphor or this allegory that you're going to be rewarded more than you could ever imagine for simply following your authenticity, for simply following your gut feeling. Essentially, a Jungian synchronicity or Emerson self-reliance. When you are in tune with your own heartstring, when you are in tune with your own authenticity, when you follow your own path without regard for other people, that's where you're going to find what you're looking for. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about that which we do not see. Hebrews 11:1. Yeah, perfect quote.
becomes the knight of faith. This is the true hero of fear and trembling. The story of Abraham and Isaac need not to be taken as a literal description of what a person must be prepared to do if he is said to have faith. It can be read as an allegory in which Abraham's actions symbolize some general feature of a religious consciousness. Johannes contrasts the knight of faith with the tragic.
If you take this story as something that actually happened, it's messed up. I mean, how is it messed up? It's it's meant to be messed up because it's meant to show the importance of faith. You know what I mean? Dude, like I guess, I guess I wasn't thinking about Isaac, but maybe you got me there. But I think it's so messed up because it's meant to show the importance of faith. I think it's taken to the extreme example so that we can see that if you don't follow what you know is right and you listen to other people, then you will forever be lost.
Hero. He uses a story from Greek mythology, the sacrifice of Iphigenia, daughter of King Agamemnon. The king accidentally kills an animal of the Greek goddess of the hunt, and she punishes him by preventing his true.
Damn, Hypnotic, you're really going there. Dude, it's cra there's just it's crazy.
troops from
I
engaging in
don't
the
even know what
Trojan
to say to
War
that.
unless
It's
he
crazy.
sacrifices his daughter. He makes the sacrifice for the good of the state, fulfilling his ethical duty. The society admires his courage. However, the Knight of Faith cannot communicate his mission, for he is utterly alone. Abraham is great not because of his willingness to obey God, but rather because of what he suffers in the trial. Furthermore, his suffering and greatness seem to isolate him in a very radical way from society. The book focuses on the nature of the suffering involved in the story. Johannes uses
You're thinking too much about it materially. Like it's really messed up. Like if you witnessed it, it would be really bad, wouldn't it? But think about the significance of it. So I think we focus too much on like the historical aspect of it, and that's the least interesting aspect of it. To me, I see the stories as more allegory than anything else, and more important than anything else. Uh, how do I say this? Like it's easier to teach philosophy and lessons through stories than it is through pure philosophy, and that's why I think this example is so interesting because it seems so awful, yet it's telling something so important that there's no justification for what Abraham is doing. There's literally zero reason why he should ever do this, but he believes so much that he's willing to go against everything that he has ever been taught, everything that he has ever believed, but he has to do it. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. I thought you were like dwelling too much on the historical aspect of it. Yeah, dude, I love the Book of Job. The Book of Job is honestly one of the best things I've ever read. I really haven't read much of the Bible. It's so bad. I always say I'm going to do it, I never do it. But the Book of Job is one of the most interesting and fascinating things I've ever had the pleasure to read.
the story of Abraham to show how monstrous a paradox faith is, a paradox capable of making a murder into a holy act well pleasing to God, a paradox which gives Isaac back to Abraham. He conveys us the hard fact
I should read Answer to Job by Young. What is he give me a summary. I've seen it. Like, I've seen it in a bookstore somewhere, but I just never picked it up. I have like a few things by Young that I just haven't read. Like I think I have two books that I've just been sitting on my shelf. Maybe I should return to them. But yeah, I was probably gonna read that at some point.
that faith has no place in a system of thought, that faith begins precisely where thinking leaves off. Faith exiles one from the realm
Faith, wait, hold on. Faith begins precisely where thinking leaves off. Faith begins precisely where thinking leaves off. And this is what I was saying in the beginning of the stream, and I know nobody was here, so I'll reiterate it. There's things that I can tell you, and then there's things you have to experience. Think about it like your dad told you something like years ago, or your grandpa, or whatever family member, they told you something, and it was only after you experienced it before you knew exactly what they were saying. It's that idea. It's that things can only be understood to a certain point, and after that point, they have to be experienced in order to get the actual information about things. Like to read the Bible without any sort of internal uh feeling or emotion would be purely like it would be a very agnostic experience. But when you have that experience inside, or when you have some sort of experience with a book, when you have a feeling or an emotion with it, then you understand it at a depth that other people might not. What's up, Loival? I'm doing good. How are you? Good to see you back, man. I'm feeling much better. Don't worry about me. God is saying, not your son, mine. I can't even explain it. Well, just because of you saying that, I might have to buy it right now. When somebody tells me that they can't explain a book, but I should read it, I know that's the exact book I need to read right now. Anyway, we'll
Of
keep going.
faith exiles one from the realm of human discourse. If we are to talk of faith at all, it is of something
Even
we
better
cannot
now that I'm no longer
explain
sick.
in any
I
language that
wasn't, it was just like a stomach bug. I wasn't like, actually, no, for like a day I was like in bed, but like after that, I've been fine. Buy it right now. Watch it be like $200. It won't actually be, but making me waste $10 is crazy. Do I have it? No, I don't have it. I have Modern Man's Search for a Soul. You've been making sauerkraut. Wish you could send me some for what is sauerkraut? Isn't that just like isn't it like fermented cabbage or something? I've had it with pierogies, and that was good. But I can't think of what else I've had it in. Or like is it like called a Reuben sandwich, I think? Our experience reading it is also different now, having the Dead Sea Scrolls to confirm the authenticity and full experience and knowledge of history, proving it's true. Psychedelic itself. Can't you get all of Jung's work for free at this point? I can. Well, no, because the Red Book was published in 2010, so I think it's I don't know how books published after the author's death works. It's probably just 70 years. But you can't get the Red Book for free. But I have the Red Book anyway. But yeah, you can get a lot of his stuff online for free. I just don't like reading online. Um, that's just me. I like having the physical book in front of me. There's something like so much easier to me, like holding a book. I don't know. It just gives me migraines to read on my phone or read on Are you judging me for being Polish? I'm more Irish than Polish, but yeah, there's a little bit of Polish in me. Did you read the Red Book ever, Hypnaudio? That was one of the most weird things I've ever read, but also one of the most interesting things. No way. You got too close. You gotta remove that comment. That's crazy. All
suffices
right,
for
anyway.
people to describe and justify their actions and attitudes to one another. In Kierkegaard's time, faith was thought to be where one begins in life, not where one aims to end.
I'll tell you later. Your guess was like too right. That's the no, but I've listened to it and it made me start to feel like I'm losing my mind. Yeah, there's certainly that in the Red Book. I don't think you could listen to it and get it because it's all over the place. I think you have to see it and kind of like parse through it. Like I don't know how you could ever listen to Ulysses on audiobook. You have to be careful with external writing and consciousness sometimes. What do you mean? What does that mean? Oh, with existential writing and consciousness. Why is that? The Red Book, the problem with the Red Book is it's just like if you're listening to an audiobook, I feel like it'd be hard to keep all the names and all the random things together. But not saying you should do this, but like it would be easier to like skim through things and look through the page and reference things and go back. And that's why I would say like there's just certain books where audiobook format doesn't work for, and I think the Red Book would be one of them.
That faith is the beginning and not the end conveys the general message of the book, that the notion of faith is so far cheapened that what is talked about is not properly called faith at all. Therefore, people mustn't suppose that faith is something inferior or that it is an easy matter, when in fact it is the greatest and most difficult of all. Since Isaac is
Faith is the most difficult of all. And what he's saying by this is perhaps the most interesting thing Kierkegaard says. Because really what he's saying is faith is belief in something where the whole world is telling you you're wrong, and even you're believing it's wrong, but you still persist anyway. Like how is that done? How is any great achievement done? Because the entire world thinks that person's a fool until they go out and do it. We're all in a multiverse or a black hole. What do you I mean, I just like I'm laughing because even if we are living in a multiverse or a black hole, why does it matter? You know what I mean? Like, why does that make a difference? Maybe it makes you feel insignificant, but it really shouldn't. Like your life is your Zacharias. Like it's like the whole like when somebody says simulation theory, like it just it irks me the wrong way because like isn't that just like a new way of just saying God? Because aren't we living in God's creation? Like why are we making it some sort of technology? Like it's a weird way of like reframing things. And that's why I don't get like, oh, multiverse or black hole. Like, who cares? It's like the thing of like, is the Earth flat? It's like, what does that prove? Like, how does that like that conspiracy theory doesn't make any sense to me because what does it change? What what does it alter about the world? Why is everyone lying to you about something so insignificant? Like, it just doesn't make sense for that reason. And that's just I feel the same way about that. You spent 4 months writing like 500K lines of code, and it's just faith and fun driving me. The synchronicities of being able to manipulate reality in weird ways is still pretty destabilizing. Yeah, I could see that. Where there's certain coincidences that are just too weird to be like not something. I had that today. I can't remember what it was, but I was thinking of something randomly, and I wasn't even like on my phone or anything. Like I was literally thinking of something while I was going to sleep last night, and today I saw like a video about it. And it's like, what is that? And I guess you could say technology is reading my mind. Maybe it is, but it's just, it's so uncanny how many times it happens.
is ultimately saved, there must be some higher stage than that of the ethical one. This is the teleological suspension of the ethical. The ethical becomes secondary as a whole to some other end or telos, the religious stage. Faith is just this paradox that the single individual as the particular is higher than the universal.
Faith is just this paradox that the single individual as the particular is higher than the universal. What he's saying here is interesting because it's the whole world is telling you you're wrong, but you know you have to do it anyway. Programmers don't have the best reputation for ethics, more like a diabolical need for control. We're gonna have to put Hypnaudio in a padded room at this point. Hypnaudio is gonna be like it's gonna be like what are they like how Dostoevsky came out of prison and he had like all these novels written in his head. Hypnaudio is gonna come out of the padded cell and he's gonna have all these programs written.
The universal is expressed by the ethical life, where the individual's actions lack a moral aspect unless they are linked to the well-being of society as a whole. If the state requires you to execute your son for whatever reason, you must do it. The religious stage is higher than the ethical because it finds the individual as the particular in an absolute relation to God, expressing individuality and inwardness, which is independent from society and which is at the core of Kierkegaard's philosophy. Johannes notes, however, that he has never found any knight of faith, though he would not deny on that ground that they exist. He writes, "If I knew where such a knight of faith lived, I would journey to him on foot. I would not let him slip one instant, but watch every minute how he makes the movements. As I said, I haven't found such a one. Still, I can very well imagine him."
It was interesting. It seems to me like he's somewhat chasing the ideal, somewhat chasing the perfect image of this man who doesn't question his faith, who blindly follows it. Been in the rabbit hole for 20 years. That sounds like Hypnodio, it sounds like your life is pure chaos.
The moment I first set eyes on him, I thrust him away, jump back, clasp my hands together, and say half aloud, "Good God, is this the person? Is it really him? He looks just like a tax collector." Yet it is indeed him. I come a little closer, watch the least movement in case some small, incongruous optical telegraphic message from the infinite should appear, a glance, expression, gesture, a sadness, a smile betraying the infinite by its incongruity with the finite. No, he is solid through and through, his stance vigorous. It belongs.
See what I mean? This idea is so interesting. And then he continued, and it just there's I don't know if it's just his examples that he uses, but to me, Kierkegaard's like very interesting ideas, very boring in application. It's similar to Huxley, where I like Huxley, the idea of Huxley, but I don't like to read Huxley. I'm so glad the chat is like chaos today. It's been a while since it's been like
Altogether
this.
to finitude. One detects nothing of the strangeness and superiority that mark the night of the infinite. This is quite a different knight of faith as that of Abraham. He looks just like any person. He is not any religious priest, monk or ascetic, but rather participates in worldly affairs just like everyone else, and yet he has made and is at every moment making.
Albus Dumbledore Huxley. Honestly, Huxley's like family is like some of like the oldest money ever. Like his dad, or not his dad, his uncle coined the term agnostic and was like one of the greatest scientists ever. So I wouldn't be shocked if he had some middle name like Dumbledore.
The movement of infinity, which cannot be seen. He indulges in finitude, which is viewed as important for the trusting character of faith in God. This is, however, not to be confused with the aesthetic way of life, since faith requires resignation. Johannes understands how one can make the infinite movement of resignation with strength, energy, and freedom of spirit, but he cannot understand the movement of faith, where one receives everything back in full by virtue of the absurd, where one renounces everything and regains everything. Johannes can only
Okay, so that's an interesting way, or that's an interesting discussion, and that's an interesting paradox. How do you gain everything from losing everything? And it's very simple. If you renounce everything that you are right now, it's the pearl of great price. It's the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant searching for the pearl of great price, who, when he finds it, gives everything he owns for that pearl. So you give up everything that makes you you right now for the sake of what you really want, for the sake of what you really want to be, for the sake of who you really want to be. You know, think about it this way: like you might have a job, you might have a house, you might have things right now that keep you tied down to who you are and where you are. But imagine you had absolute faith that you could just give that all up, renounce of everything, and gain what you really wanted, gain the freedom that you really wanted, gain everything and every aspect of the character that you really wanted to be. It's that idea of things. It's that we have so much attachment to all the things that really possess us. And when we give up that attachment, then we gain everything else that we've been missing out on. He just wrote down their plans and it went so much swimmingly well. No, yeah, I mean it's the same as Orwell as well. Like Orwell and Huxley, like people don't say this, but they were in like the best schools in England. So like of course they could easily predict what was going to happen because it was right in front of them. When you get a new perspective and freedom, bingo, plus I have nothing means you have no weight to carry. When I lost the world, I was weightless. Yes. I love how Hypnaudio summarized it in like this much like text when I like spent like a minute or two trying to explain it, and he did a better job. Your things possess you. When you give up everything that possesses you, then you're free. Then you gain everything. Then you gain more than you had previously. I hate that Hypnaudio does a better job than me.
Remain a knight of infinite resignation. He has great trouble hurling himself trustingly in the absurd and calls it an impossible task, a marvel which he can only be amazed by.
And it really is an impossible task because how do we give up all sense of security? How do we give up all sense of safety? How do we go into the unknown with no set of kind of guardrails? It's a very difficult thing to do. And that's why so many people live an existence where they feel hollow, where they feel empty, because they give up their sanity for the sake of safety. They give themselves up instead of actually living as they really want to be. Okay, so he's the opposite of Camus. I mean, I don't know because it's just this idea. Maybe it opposes Camus in this sense, but they're both considered somewhat existentialist. I don't know Camus, I like what he would say about this, and he's definitely commented on this because I think Kierkegaard is like one of the first and one of the most impactful existentialists. It'd be interesting to read what Camus said about it, but maybe I wish I knew the answer to that.
Alas, this movement is one I cannot make. As soon as I want to begin it, everything turns around and I flee back.
He's also very different from Camus though because he's outwardly religious. He's admittedly a Christian. So I think this is gonna inherently give him a different perspective than Camus. So
Back to the pain of resignation. I can swim in life, but for this mysterious floating, I am too
he
heavy
talks about
to
Kierkegaard.
exist in such a way.
I didn't know who Kierkegaard was when I read The Myth of Sisyphus. So I'll go back and look at that. Maybe that's something we could talk about in one of the members only stream at some point. That might be an interesting chapter to go through. Because I feel like we've been doing entire works, but we can go to set chapters of stuff. And I think that might be a good one to go through.
That my opposition to existence expresses itself every instant as the most beautiful and safest harmony, that I cannot. He compares both knights to a ballet dancer. It is said that the dancer's hardest task is to leap straight into a definite position without vacillating and standing there in the leap itself. The Knight of Infinite Resignation is a dancer, and he too has elevation, but while he makes the upward movement and lands, he wavers an instant, showing that he is nevertheless a stranger in the world. His leap of faith cannot be grounded in reality. He is lacking the movement of faith. The Knight of
His leap of faith cannot be grounded in movement. It's a very interesting way of saying this. You learned a lot about Kierkegaard and Dostoevsky on this channel. I don't think I do a good job of covering either of them. That's not a good thing. Uh, you're out here misquoting Dostoevsky and Kierkegaard. It's thanks to me. I feel I don't know if that's. Are you talking about me or this channel specifically?
Faith, however,
Like the channel we're reacting to. I hope you're talking about this guy. I don't do a very good job interpreting. From my understanding of these people is always through my own way of thinking through things. So I pick and choose what I love, what I want to talk about, what I don't want to talk about, and the ideas that stick out to me. That's why people get mad when I say things sometimes because I don't say it in the way they want to hear
can make a leap and land on
it.
the ground perfectly, and this movement is represented in his every step. He delights in everything finite, even while knowing the bliss of infinity. In other words, he moves from finitude to infinity and back again to finitude. His movement of infinity is grounded in reality. Johannes illustrates these two movements by giving the example of a young man in love with a princess. There may in fact be three movements. One which is not explicitly counted as a separate movement is the concentration of desire on a single finite object, which allows for the movement of infinite resignation. The night of infinite resignation has an intensification of desire.
So it's kind of what I said earlier. It's that you have an idea and then you have the conviction to follow that idea without regard for the external world. It's how I like to characterize creativity a lot because how do you create something? How do you go about and be an artist and bring something from your head into the world? Well, first you have to have the idea, and second you have to have the conviction that this idea is worthwhile, that you're capable of undertaking this task, that whatever people say does not matter. Whatever people think about this thing doesn't matter. It matters what you think about it. And when you put it out into the world, it's going to be something that moves you. Disregard the external circumstances and carry it out. And then you take the steps to do it. Then you write it, draw whatever thing that you had to draw. You type whatever it is that you had to write. You say whatever it is that you had to say. In whatever form of expression it is, you have to have those three steps. And I think this is what he's going to say.
In which he puts the content of his whole life in this love. And yet the relationship is one that cannot possibly be brought to fruition, be translated from ideality to reality. While he performs the movement of infinite resignation by renouncing to the love infinitude, which causes him great pain, his love for the princess would take the expression of an eternal love, which would assume a religious character, directing his love at God. Having acquired an eternal consciousness which no one can take away from him, he obtains peace and rest.
It's somewhat similar. It's again just I feel like I was trying to somebody was going I can't remember who it was, but somebody was like going through a really hard time and they were like, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with that? And really what I was telling them is stop caring so much about the external circumstances, care more about the internal world. The idea of amor fati, as the Stoics would say, love your fate, love everything that happens to you because it builds you to be who you are. Um, and it's to me that's somewhat similar to this idea here.
Rest, allowing the pain caused by his unsatisfied desire to reconcile him spiritually. He no longer needs to know about the finite existence of the princess. He has grasped the deep secret that even in loving another, one should be sufficient unto himself. If one's interests are numerous,
So the idea of the love is enough. The devotion to the impossible is enough. That's a very interesting way of thinking about it. It's like, have you ever accomplished something and you felt nothing when you did it? Like genuinely my greatest accomplishments in life, I've felt nothing when I did it. Not even happy, not even any sort of elation, not even any sort of phew, I'm done with that. No, I felt nothing, completely hollow. And to me, I think it's just the realization that it was the process that I enjoyed. It was the things that I did along the way that I enjoyed. It wasn't the actual certificate. It wasn't the actual end goal. It wasn't the mountaintop that I enjoyed the most. It was the journey. Not all who wander are lost, as Tolkien said.
and as replaceable as the Hydra's heads, then it seems that in cutting them off one by separate acts of resignation, one will never reach a comprehensive or infinite resignation. If religious devotion is to define itself by resignation, the desire for the finite presents itself concentrated in one head that can be severed by a single stroke of resignation, so to speak. The Knight of Faith does exactly the same.
Faith is the idea. Faith is how you get through the doubt, temptation to not, obstacles. I liken it to making an idea come alive. It's like a pet or a plant that you need to keep alive and nurture. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Camus called the nothingness that you need to accept the void And he said that Kierkegaard just defined the void into Christ or whatever. Yeah. I mean, I could see why Camus wouldn't like it because it's somewhat optimistic, and I don't think Camus needed optimism. I don't know. I don't know how to say it any better than that. Where to me, like Camus reminds me of like George Carlin in a sense, where like George Carlin, I don't know if he was like pessimist. It doesn't really seem like that to me, but he seemed like a man that laughed at how absurd everything was, that saw how meaningless and how unimportant the things that people hold important are. And instead of being grief stricken by it, he just laughed at it. And to me, that seems kind of how Camus went through the world, almost like a trickster, like sort of the trickster archetype, playing with the things that people play, the things that people hold as important.
Same as the other night, but he makes one more movement. He says, I nevertheless believe that I shall get her, namely by virtue of the absurd, on the strength of the fact that for God all things are possible. The Knight of Faith redirects the love to the princess through divine possibility. As such, he is the happiest person, the heir to the finite.
It's like the idea of like, I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but I'm gonna get there, and absolute faith in that idea.
While the other knight is a stranger and an outsider. All of this reflects Kierkegaard's own personal experience. He fell deeply and passionately in love with Regine Olsen, but ended up breaking off his engagement to her, sacrificing that which he loved with his whole soul. Kierkegaard rarely entertained the idea that his works would become classics. However, concerning Fear and Trembling, he wrote in his journals that he predicted that with his frightful pathos, it would suffice to immortalize my name as an author, and to be translated into
Maybe a little bit conceited, but it was true.
other languages. If there were no eternal consciousness in a man, if at the bottom of everything there were only a wild ferment, a power that twisting in dark passions produced everything great or inconsequential, if
There were no, oh my God, if there were no eternal consciousness in a man, if at the bottom of everything there was only a wild ferment, a power that twisting in dark passions produced everything great or
eternal
inconsequential.
consciousness in a man, if at the bottom of everything passions produced everything, what
What lay hidden beneath everything? What would life be but despair? So it's almost there needs to be this faith. There needs to be this hope. And without this hope, there's no point to life. And it's that our pursuit of the infinite, our pursuit of perfection, our pursuit of these goals beyond ourselves is what gives any meaning to life. And it's weird because these ideas somewhat correlate to like Nietzsche in some weird sense, Neville Goddard, Emerson, Blake. Very, very weird how these things kind of circle together. How long have we been going for? I don't want to go too long. We've only been going for like an hour. I'll go a little bit longer, but we're not gonna make it through this whole video. This, by the way, this channel is eternalized. This is eternalized as well. Great channel. I like reacting to their videos, and if you haven't already, I think you should check them out yourself because there's a lot of stuff I will never get to on this channel, and they're well worth your time. They do a very good job of like doing the stuff I don't like to do, which is putting in pictures, explaining these ideas, not going into long tangents about other ideas, and really sticking to the basic facts and giving you a really good overview of these people's ideas. Um, I can't do that. This is not how my brain works. My brain's like, whoa, this idea, and you can compare it to this idea, then you can compare it to this, and then this, and then this, and then what does this mean altogether? That's how my brain works. So unfortunately, This is well beyond my means.
But every creative individual whatsoever owes all that is greatest in his life to fantasy. The dynamic principle of fantasy is play, a characteristic also of the child, and as such it appears
Why are children able to play in a sandbox? Why are kids able to have a whole imaginary world which they can lose themselves into, but yet we can't entertain ourselves for 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Professor Beano Philosophy Fund. There we go, Hypnodio. Thank you so much for the super chat. You didn't need to do that, man. Always, every time I see Hypnodio, he's always you're too kind to me. I don't deserve it, but thank you, thank you. Shout out to Hypnodio. But what I was trying to say was the reason kids are able to play and the reason why kids' imagination is so strong is because it hasn't been beaten out of them and it hasn't been disregarded. To a kid, their imagination is their strongest force, but to a adult, their imagination is their weakest aspect of their character because what you're rewarded for in this world is your mechanical mind. You know, Gurdjieff's idea of sleep, Gurdjieff's idea of man is a machine. You know, your ability to be monotonous, your ability to do the same task every day, your ability to recall the sets of systems, the sets of ideas, and then apply them to the new one. There's no creativity, there's no imagination, and that's what we're rewarded for. And that's why it's so difficult for so many people to live a good life because they're neglecting an entire aspect of themselves. They're neglecting at least half of their brain. To me, my model of the brain is split mechanical imagination. That's how I like to view it. I know it's not that way. I know it's not that simple, but to me that's how I break it up. Somewhat in the hermetic sense of the active passive principle. But why is it so important to have this childlike outlook on life? Why is it so important to lower the importance of things? I'll give an example from my own life because I think it does a really good job of explaining it. Like I'm somebody who folds under pressure. If I think something's important, I do horrible. If I think something is significant in my life, then I will always fail. Regardless of how hard I prepare, regardless of how easy a task it is, I will fail. But what I've been learning to do recently is lowering the importance. Understanding that if I give my best, then my best is enough. And when I do that, then I can perform to the best of my abilities. And I always do what I believe I can do, if not better. And I always get the job done. And really what it is when you make something serious, when you make something significant, you put expectations on it. And when you put expectations on it, then you limit your imagination. You limit the ways that things can be done. If you believe things can only be done in one way, that they can only be done in one way. When you leave your mind open for creativity, for imagination, for different ways, then different ways are possible. But when you shrink the possibilities to one, then you only have one way of doing it. I picture it that way too. The breakdown of Why Chimerial Mind by Julian Jaynes touches on this topic too. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of science and all sorts of ideas of these things, and people talk about consciousness and life and all. I don't think anybody has any idea of any of these concepts, so I'm just going to use what the Hermetics use because it makes a whole lot of sense to me with the active passive principle. The active principle is your day-to-day life, your mind, and then the passive is when you sleep or when you're a passive, when you're listening to people. Like that's to me how it works. But
is inconsistent with the principle of serious work. But without this playing with fantasy, no creative work has ever yet come to birth. The debt we owe to the play of imagination is
the debt we owe to the play of imagination is incalculable. Incalculable. I must be getting tired or something because I can't read basic words. It's so bad. Um, and I forgot what I was gonna say. That's great. Okay, what I was gonna say. I think it was in reality transurfing, but and I'm gonna have to roughly paraphrase, but basically he included a quote from Albert Einstein, which was basically saying that like all scientific discoveries are not from, the analytical side of the brain, they're from the imaginative side, and then they're then proved by the analytical side. And really what I took this to mean is that all of Einstein's discoveries were creativity and imagination, and then he proved it using math, which I thought was an interesting way of thinking about it. But there is some truth to this that Tesla used auto suggestion to, or what is it called? There's a term for it, but auto writing or channeling to kind of come up with his discoveries. He used occult practices to discover his discoveries, basically. There's an interview where he says, um, I would go to sleep and I would leave my journal open and I would have I would have something that I wanted to invent. And then I would wake up and my pages would be full of the way that I invented it. And then I would go into my laboratory and discover it. It was like, dude, why'd you say that out loud? Like now we think it, now we think you didn't really do anything. Psycho-cybernetics touches on it too with the movie theater in your mind thing. Forgot how to explain it. Oh yeah, like visualization, visualizing yourself in the scene of things. The calculation itself is itself indebted to imagination. I should read that. Should read what? Psycho-cybernetics or reality transurfing? I think they're both worth your time. They both are very interesting and have some things in them that are like, wow, this is a really good way of putting it. I don't think it's going to be anything like if you've read books like that. I don't think it's going to be anything you haven't seen. Wow, that's a bad voice crack, but I think it's going to be said in a way that really clicks.
Incalculable. What does it mean to be creative? The word derives from the Latin creare, meaning to create, bring forth, or give birth. Myths, eternally recurring patterns that express fundamental truths about the human condition, portray creation as the activity of the gods.
Let the muses move you, your hand and mind, it just happens. Are you conscious when you're doing it, or are you unconscious? Because I get what you're saying if you're like awake and it kind of just comes spontaneously, because that's kind of how I write. But if you're like asleep, then that's like that's honestly more impressive.
Who bring the world into existence. Thus, creativity was first understood as a divine generative force. The earliest recorded
The Greeks believed that they were channeling spirits when they were writing things. So there's this idea that they're kind of speaking through these gods. Um, there's this weird book. It's called Healing the Magical Art or something like that by Manly P. Hall. And it was talking about the origins of medicine. And it was basically he's basically saying that like a lot of the practices in the early ages of medicine were like people would wear a mask and they would believe themselves to be the god and they would try to heal things. You don't overthink things, you let it flow. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, that's how I write too. Okay. I was the way you the way you described it, I was like, dude, what are you like some dark occultist here? Like, how do you have this like level of like psychic power that I don't have? Not asleep but with Claude Code agents. Now I literally do this. Sit on task before bed, wake up to solutions. Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's dude. I have to. I don't even know what I could use Claude for, but uh, everyone's been talking about it. You and Lloyd all have been talking about it.
creation myths, such as those of the Sumerians, Babylonians, and Egyptians, converge on an archetypal motif. In the beginning, only the primordial waters existed, symbolizing chaos, out of which order emerges, heaven and earth, the gods, and eventually humans. From undifferentiated potential arises differentiation and actuality. Psychologically, this mirrors the process by which the unconscious, often symbolized by water, gives birth to consciousness. The human psyche is the womb of all the arts
Watch
and
your demo
sciences.
video. I will after this. Unless you want me to watch it on stream.
As Carl Jung writes, I am indeed convinced that creative imagination is the only primordial phenomenon accessible to us, the real ground of the psyche, the only immediate reality.
I'm indeed convinced that creative imagination is the only primordial phenomenon accessible to us, the real ground of the psyche, the only immediate reality. Wow, that's interesting.
From the
It's only 5
Renaissance
minutes long.
onwards, and especially during the Enlightenment, creativity came to be understood as a distinctly human capacity for imagination, innovation,
I'll watch it off stream so I don't just look dumb when I pull it up, but we can do it another time. Because I'm not gonna be on too much longer. My voice is cracking and I'm starting to get like tired. I'm like kinda sick right now, so I'm not like gonna go for like 3-4 hours like I would want to.
and invention. At a deeper level, however, creativity involves bringing one's inner nature into being, a task unique for each individual. In Jungian psychology, this process is called individuation.
This is a this is a recurring idea that you'll find in like all these great thinkers or great mystics or great philosophers. Their solution is creativity. Their solution is expression. Their solution is finding out who you really are and bringing that into the world. And this is Freud, Osho, Jung, Nietzsche, Blake, Emerson, uh, Kierkegaard, I guess you could say. Um, why am I blanking? There's a lot of these Schopenhauer. Uh, I'm sure Dante. I don't know about Gibran probably, but like most of these like intelligent people, they really see that the way out of things is through finding yourself through some sort of expression. And to Freud, really the best way of letting out what can't be let out through normal life is some form of creativity. And what I always tell people to do is like find something that you could express yourself in. So like a really easy one for a lot of people is like going to the gym. Think about it, like people say all the time, "Oh, bodybuilding saved my life," or "Bodybuilding's an art. It's more art than it is sport because you kind of are able to build something and able to create something, and it's a form of expression. It's a form of creativity. It's a form of putting out what you need to put out that otherwise wouldn't be said in your day-to-day life. It's the same thing with jujitsu. It's the same thing with martial arts. Emphasis on the arts aspect of things, that you train your body. You're able to move your body in a certain way. You're able to coordinate your senses, and you're able to put it to the test against other people. And there's some artistry to it. Think of like how GSP would fight. GSP was not some brawny, brutal guy that would try to just walk you down. He would mix up all his technique. He would do what he had to do to win. He would always beat the guy at what they were best at. And it's a very unique way of seeing things. It's like Miyamoto Musashi. Once you see the way, you see it in all things. It's that you can be creative in anything you do. It's that you can find the passion and the creativity aspect of yourself in all things. It's just you don't oftentimes look. You know, you can even be creative in business. Think of people that redefined industries. Think of people that redefined the way that we view the world, like Edison. You might not think of Edison as a really creative person. He wasn't even a great inventor. It was the people around him that invented. But he was able to market things. He was able to bring things to people. He was able to streamline the process of lighting up America. Like these are creative endeavors, and you can find some aspect of creativity in anything. Don't play it on stream. I have stage fright. Dude, there's like 2 people here right now. Watch it like go up to like 50, and we're like reacting to you, and your voice like cracks or something, and we're all making funny. It's okay, Vito. We love you. I'm glad to hear that somebody loves me.
The lifelong task of becoming fully oneself by bringing the contents of the unconscious
Take
up
a
from
theory
their
and then make
dark
it dance.
waters into the light
Interesting.
of consciousness. Individuation, however, cannot occur without prior differentiation. One must become psychologically distinct from others, including one's loved ones, and avoid adopting another person's psyche, values, or identity in place of one's own. A common conflict arises when people try to tell others how to live, unaware that they are unconsciously projecting their own identity onto them. Naturally, there will be terrible resistances, because no one can live someone else's life. In doing so, one violates not only the others.
And I think even if you're giving like even if you're projecting your experience onto somebody else, it could be useful advice. But like this is something that you'll learn if you ever try to like help people. I feel like this sounds bad because it's like of course you've tried to help people, but like maybe you haven't like done it the way I've done it. But like, I feel like a lot of my content, a lot of the stuff I talk about is to like improve myself. So like through the course of improving myself, I've learned how to deal with things. And I'll tell people that. I'll be like, "Oh, you should try this. You should try this." But it's like nobody nobody wants help from you. Nobody wants help from you unless they ask for it. So if I tell somebody to do something, it's actually counterproductive because they're gonna be like, "Well, fuck this guy. This guy's not gonna. Who's this guy to tell me this? Who's this guy to tell me this?" And they're gonna keep going down their path, and they're gonna continue their actions in spite of you. They're gonna do it to get revenge on you. They're gonna do it so that they prove you wrong. And it's like it's a very funny kind of phenomena that you'll notice if you try to give unsolicited advice to people. We're
Individuality.
stuck in a house of mirrors. Yeah, I mean, this is like a very like horrific idea if you've never confronted it. But the things that you like about the world and the things that you hate about the world are the things that you like and hate about yourself. Now, does it make your criticism wrong? No, but there's something in you that there's something in you that you need to be introspective about. You need to look at yourself about.
But also one's own. Rather than remaining unconsciously fused, one must establish a conscious relationship with others. This does not imply a withdrawal of love or care. On the contrary, fusion creates confusion, whereas separation makes genuine love possible.
Think how can you know you love somebody if you have never missed them? Like I'm sure we've all been around that friend that pisses you off and you don't see them for a while and then you see them again and you're like, I don't even remember why I was mad at this person. I don't even remember why this person was pissing me off. It's the separation, it's the push and pull, it's the fact that you haven't seen this person for a while that you finally appreciate them. It's like that idea of like when somebody dies and you finally find out how much you love them, how much they impacted you.
Each person must allow his or her own individuality to unfold, which is a painful process, for we are not only physically attached to those we love, but also psychologically bound to them. Letting go of these unconscious ties can bring loneliness, anxiety, and guilt. Yet without this separation, psychological growth cannot occur.
Made this for me. I'm scared. Hold on. Let me open this in another tab. Is this giving me viruses? It says I don't have permission. Is there do I have to be using a certain because it said 403 not found. I don't know what that means.
In the
I've never
first
used that
half of
website.
life, differentiation dominates as we build a stable ego through interactions with family, friends, school, work, and relationships. In the second half of life, the psyche naturally turns inward, focusing on aligning the ego with the self, our whole personality. Failure to adapt to this shift often leads to a midlife crisis. Both differentiation and individual.
I think Jung said, yeah, he did. He said life begins at 40 because it's up until 40 that we're learning who we are. We're learning through experience. We're experiencing ups and downs, and then at 40, that's when we have the maturity and we have the capability to look inward to ourselves. I don't know if that's really the case. I feel like I would defy Jung in certain regards to that idea, but in certain regards, he's right. Certain regards, it's only when we begin to physically deteriorate where we need to even begin to understand ourselves from another perspective. That at middle age, that's when we start to think about death. We start to think about what's it all for? What's the meaning? What have I done up until now? How do I come to grips with these sorts of things? If that makes sense.
Situation continue throughout life, but one tends to dominate at each stage of life. One might say, with a little exaggeration, that life truly begins at midlife. Until then, we're just doing research. When the ego is not properly related to the self, neurosis arises as a state of inner division, and in extreme cases, psychosis may result. Many people suffer from a profound disconnection from the psyche, or soul. The mythological and
Comes in waves and stages. Every season of life is a new experience. That's a good way of putting it. I like that more than what Jung said.
symbolic realm that enriches our life with meaning. To restore this meaning, we must reconnect with the self, which represents the potential for attaining our true nature by making the unconscious conscious. Though many seek wholeness, they theorize endlessly about the process, precisely to evade it. For we will do anything to avoid facing our worst enemy, ourselves. Human life seems natural.
Let me check this. There's nothing in here that I'll read this later. I don't want it to like put your email out or anything you don't wanna. I've never used this
Naturally
website before.
oriented towards growth. Like a seed that becomes a tree and bears fruit, we too seek to produce our own fruit, a symbol of our life's work. At the same time, there is a tremendous waste of potential, visible not only in the unlived life of humans, but also throughout nature and the animal world. The creative process is never without struggle. Every act of creation is first of all an act of destruction. For new life to emerge, we must allow our old ideas, behaviors, and attitudes that hinder us from growth to be destroyed.
Think of the Heraclitus quote, "You can never step in the same river twice. Both the man and the river have changed." It's the idea that every instance we're different. And to become better, you have to forget your old version of yourself. You have to become a new person. You have to grow into something else. It's just the direct quotes from the Mythicists for some highlighting. Okay, I'll look at it uh after, and then we can go through it again on another stream.
This is a symbolic death and rebirth, a painful
Don't
transformation
don't worry about your email. Okay, okay. No, because right when I open, I'm like, oh, did I just like reveal something I shouldn't have? Because I meant to, I forgot to copy it. I right clicked or I left clicked, and then it just opened it in the tab I'm in.
that not many are willing to endure. But to refuse this sacrifice is to fall into stagnation and meaninglessness. Just as a snake must shed its skin to live, we too must undergo inner change. A person must pay dearly for the divine gift of creative fire.
Person must pay dearly for the divine gift of creating fire. And this is like I'm assuming this is something about Prometheus, where Prometheus gave fire to man, an act defying the will of the gods, and was made to pay for it his entire life. Um, I'm sure we all are somewhat familiar with Prometheus.
The ancient Greeks regarded inspiration as a form of divine madness, a gift from the gods. Through the aid of the muses, personifications of human creativity, humans may briefly enter the realm of the divine and obtain
This is an interesting way of thinking because it's like most of the works of art of the old Greeks were thought to be channeled. So like this would be like imagine like imagine someone today like wrote a book. They're like, Yeah, I channeled a spirit to write. Like it's such a weird thing to, such a weird way to say it. Even though there is some sort of like anybody that knows anything about creativity, anybody that is creative does this somewhat passively, where things just appear. Like when I write, when I'm really in the writing mood, I don't know what I'm gonna write next. I don't know what I'm gonna say next. I don't know what's gonna come out of me next. It just comes. And if that's tapping into God, if that's tapping into imagination, if that's tapping into some force, I don't know what it is. I don't know how to describe it, but that's it's essentially the same thing. I just don't attribute it to channeling. I think it's me, but you know, you can believe whatever you want to believe about whatever. Interestingly enough, Blake believed that this is in fact God, that creativity is God expressing himself through you.
In the creative fire. But this gift comes with a cost. Those who trespass the limits of mortality to claim what belongs to the gods must ultimately pay a price. Across the world, myths of tricksters and culture heroes stealing fire illustrate the dual nature of creativity. It can enlighten, but also bring suffering. The most popular figure is that of Prometheus in Greek mythology. As Hesiod recounts in Theogony, Prometheus deceived the gods, leading Zeus to withhold fire from humanity. Out of pity for mankind, Prometheus stole the fire back, an act for which he was condemned to eternal torment. In his wrath, Zeus sought to punish humanity as well, commanding Hephaestus to fashion the first woman from Earth, who would bring misfortune to man.
That's so funny. I did not know that's part of the myth. That's so funny. I don't know why that made me laugh so much, but like, how's it a pun? I don't know why it's a punishment. That's just funny. I'm assuming this is like there's this like recurring theme of like there's kind of two creation myths. Women are evil confirmed. What are you, John Milton now? Um, that Adam was created, and that there was a split that Eve was then created from Adam, and that before that there was no duality. There was no um humans are evil, not just women. Wow, you made it so much better, Hypno. No, I know you're Lorival, I know you're joking. I'm not gonna like, even if you were joking, why would it matter? Like, who cares? Same with the sharing. I don't know what I've never watched Naruto. But there's this like idea of like, okay, this is getting into like the Templars and that kind of weird kind of stuff, and even like the um union of opposites, that sort of idea that you'll see recurring in all sorts of esoteric societies. But there's Adam was created and then Eve was created from Adam. So there's really two creation myths. There's something very weird there. And this is like the same thing as like the Baphomet, which is like both male and female. There's a very much carryover between these old myths. It's very weird when you start picking it up.
Hesiod revisits the myth in Works and Days, framing Prometheus's theft of fire as the origin of human suffering. The first woman is introduced as Pandora, all gifts, who carries a jar containing countless plagues. Prometheus had warned his brother Epimetheus not to accept any gifts from Zeus, but Epimetheus ignored the warning and accepted Pandora. Out of curiosity, Pandora opened the jar, releasing sorrow, deceit.
It's weird how this is like pretty much analogous to the original sin myth too. But it's like I hate this, like this original sin idea is so stupid because original sin is the only meaning we have to life. Without original sin, there's no meaning. Like I hate this idea that it's like a bad thing. Like if all you could do was good deeds, then it means nothing when you do a good deed. It's when you have the capability to do wrong It's when you have the capability to do evil, when it's easier to be evil, but you're right instead of wrong. That's what gives life meaning. That's what makes good things good. It's we don't know what evil is if we don't know what good is. We don't know what light is without dark. Without these opposites, without the yin and the yang, there's no life, there's no existence. It's the duality that gives any sort of purpose, any sort of meaning.
Disease and death, thereby ending the Golden Age. Only one thing remained within the jar: hope. In Prometheus Bound, Prometheus gifts mortals not only fire but also hope, and bestows upon them the arts that shape civilization, thereby expanding their knowledge. Before his intervention, humans are described as having eyes yet seeing nothing, having ears yet hearing no sound. They drifted like fleeting shapes in a dream, lost, confused, wandering through endless.
Not to get into Evo psych, but I think most of European society moves along the power of shame, hence. Well, yeah, there's like there's like the doctrinal like control system side of Christianity. Then there's like the I hate that it's esoteric, but like the like Nietzsche's idea of Christ, like Christ was the last Christian. Christ was the last person who tried to live like Christ. It's that idea. I think people are too guided by this idea of I need a middleman, I need a priest, I need this, I need that in order to communicate with God, instead of the whole point of Jesus coming back is to show that you don't. And that's sort of what resonates with me more than anything else. Um, but yeah, sort of the Gurdjieff approach to things that I'm not a Christian, I try to be. I think that's the best way to phrase it.
Days. In myths, truths that occur internally are presented as though they were external events. Psychologically, the theft of fire can be seen as a symbol for the increase of consciousness, which may be described as the goal of human existence, to know oneself. Until we embark on this journey, we exist in a kind of limbo, drifting aimlessly. But the acquisition of such precious knowledge comes at a heavy cost: the end of the paradisical Golden Age. A similar truth appears in the myth of Adam and Eve. If we imagine being born in
Luckily, Jesus solved that on the cross. Yeah, yeah.
paradise and living there eternally, we would be like unconscious automatons, with little free will and no
With him,
possibility
it is
for
finished.
growth. By eating the forbidden fruit from the tree
I hate that I just said all of it. I need to like skim through these videos before I pull them up because I always like just reveal the point that he's about to make before he makes it. It's like
of the
so
knowledge
annoying.
of good and evil, Adam and Eve's eyes were opened, symbolizing the dawn of human consciousness. However, they immediately felt ashamed and hid from God, who promptly expelled them from paradise, lest they eat of the tree of life and become immortal, like the gods. In his book, The Courage to Create, American psychologist Rollo May considers the battle with the gods
Let me write that down. The courage to create. That sounds interesting. I've like read a lot of books about creativity. Not that many need to be read. Um, in fact, I think you'll learn more about creativity than like through like spiritual things and spiritual practices and reading William Blake or Khalil Gibran, trying to somewhat emulate them. I think that's a better pursuit. Rick Rubin's book is actually pretty good though. I was shocked about how spot on he was able to explain creativity. That guy's definitely into some sort of like esoteric wisdom because he's like citing things and I'm like, I know where you're citing this from, and this is not like this is a very obscure thing.
as a struggle with our own mortality. Creativity is a way of reaching for immortality. We know we must die, and each of us must find the courage to face death, but we also rebel against it. As Dylan Thomas wrote, "Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light." Creativity arises from this very struggle. Michelangelo's writhing, unfinished statues of slaves, struggling in their prisons of stone, are a
You like Rolo the Candy. Thank you for that input. You completely changed the way I see the world in the video.
fitting symbol for our human condition. Every infant experiences a fall from paradise, a kind of archetypal maternal womb or original wholeness, when leaving the comforting circle of the mother to develop an ego. Yet without this fall, there would be neither consciousness nor creativity as we know them. Thus, it can be seen as a happy fall, or fall upward.
Again, it's this duality that gives us the capacity for anything, and that there's some beauty in this. It's you don't know you don't know greatness without being able to lose everything. You don't know what's good if you don't know bad. Khalil Gibran perhaps said it the best out of any other artist. Every sorrow deepens your joy. Every time you experience pain, it makes you resonate with the good times that much more. It makes you appreciate them that much more.
Moving
There's
us from
something
the
there's something so powerful in this statement. And that's why I'm trying to say it in so many different ways, because this is such a fundamental part of life that we need to start kind of understanding. Even Heraclitus, his lesser known statements are all about the union of opposites. They're all about the necessity for good and evil. William Blake, perhaps his best work of poetry is The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, which is about this idea as well.
the stasis of the Edenic state to the full richness of the human condition, where duality and the tension of opposites make growth possible. As Jung declared, only here in life on Earth, where the opposites clash together, can the general level of consciousness be raised. That seems to be man's metaphysical task. In The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, William Blake states that
It's every time I say something, it's gonna.
without contraries is no progression. Attraction and repulsion, reason and energy, love and hate are necessary to human existence. From these contraries spring what the religious call good and evil. Good is the passive that
So Blake's not even assigning a meaning to it. He's not even assigning a emotion to it. He's assigning it as necessity. It's that ring that was given to King Solomon. I never really appreciated inner peace until I experienced absolute chaos. Yes, it's a perfect way of putting it. Yeah, there's a realization that I've come to recently, is that like if I myself from like 3 years ago was like put into me right now, that sounds so awful. If you put me from 3 years ago into my place right now, where I am right now, I'm I'm just thinking about how bad I butchered that phrasing. Uh, I would be freaking out. I would be. I don't know if I'd be able to handle it. I don't know if I'd be able to handle the stress, and I feel nothing right now. I'm not stressed out at all. I really don't care. I'm really just going about my business and trying to put myself in the right direction. And I think I'm embodying that stoic idea of like the only thing you can control is your world. The only thing you can control is your reaction. And in controlling my reaction, I'm able to make myself happy. That's hot. Don't say that. What the fuck? That that's like timeout worthy. Can I give you a 10-second timeout? There we go. Perfect. It's 10-second timeout worthy. Oh, I deleted all your messages. Well, I can still view them. Every sorrow deepens your joy is tombstone worthy. I like that. Control the controllables, yes. Um, I love that they added the 10-second timeout because it's just like perfect opportunity for me to be petty. It's just like it doesn't even do anything. It's just so fun. And now I forget what I was saying. But
obeys
oh,
reason.
I'll remember.
Evil is the active springing from energy. Good is heaven, evil is hell. The marriage of these opposites suggests that by reconciling them, we can transcend duality and go beyond good and evil. This constitutes the true religious experience, through which we may return to paradise, but on a higher level of
I think it was worth it for that comment.
consciousness. This journey is depicted by Blake in Songs of Innocence and Experience.
Blake, there's two poems that you should read from Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience. It's The Tiger and the Lamb because they perfectly contrast each other. They perfectly shadow.
where the individual falls from innocence into experience and seeks to grow out of the fallen condition into higher innocence, a new Eden which
If he
transcends the
doesn't show him,
original.
I'll pull it out
Blake
and we'll read it.
reverses the traditional view of hell as
Okay. Let me find my. Why is my chair not moving? All right. Because I think these two poems perfectly contrast each other, and they really explain this idea very well. And they're also some of Blake's finest writing. Like Lamb, page 24. Little lamb, who made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? Gave thee life and bid thee feed by the stream and over the meadow. Gave thee clothing of delight, softest clothing, woolly bright. Gave thee such tender voice, making all the vale rejoice. Little lamb, who made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? Little lamb, I'll tell thee. Little lamb, I'll tell thee. He is called by thy name, for he calls himself a lamb. He is meek and he is mild. He became a little child. I am a child and thou a lamb. We are called by his name. Little lamb, God bless thee. Little lamb, God bless thee. So this poem is obviously about innocence, obviously about a soft, cute animal, and then we contrast this with a tiger. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? I don't know if I'm supposed to say symmetry. In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who make the lamb make thee? Tiger, 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 burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? Okay. And obviously, I feel like the comparison is very obvious because he's talking about something so gentle, something so kind, something with a fluffy coat and, as he says, great clothes, and wandering across the meadow. And he contrasts that with a tiger, which is this brutal animal, this brutal killing machine, this thing that is capable of seemingly great evil, but it's created by the same thing. And you see this idea of the union of opposites. You see this idea of the nature of things. For something to be so good, there has to be something so evil at the same time. Somewhat the idea of the book of Job, where Job asks why these things happen to me, and he basically says that, or God says in response that bad things happen to good people because things are working on such grand order that you can never understand, but things are balanced. I think you have to understand the lamb in the Bible to understand what they're referring to, though. Yes and no. I feel like it's pretty obvious. He hints to it. He says, what did he say? He's called by the name for he calls himself a lamb. It says it right there. I feel like it's pretty obvious. He's talking about both a lamb and Jesus at the same time. But anyway, we'll get back to this. But I think this is a very good example of explaining this idea. Because how are you going to talk about Blake and not read any Blake? Like, it's it's right there. It's so easy.
As a place of punishment, instead portraying it as a realm of activity, desire, and energy, writing that energy is eternal delight. He walks among the fires of hell, delighted with the enjoyments of genius, which to angels look like torment and insanity. In contrast, heaven represents passivity, reason, and conformity. Thus, we can distinguish between two types of individuals: the energetic creators and the rational organizers, or the devils and the angels. Psychologically, Blake's hell can be understood as the unconscious, the source of inner drives, impulses, and creative urges, while
I guess you could say that, but it's also Blake is somewhat playing at our conception of good and evil. It's almost like Nietzsche's idea of beyond good and evil is that these terms kind of don't describe the reality of things. These terms are somewhat limiting and don't really exist in reality. They're nice to think about, but they don't actually mean anything. And he makes this clear in the Proverbs of Hell, where essentially Blake says things that are contradictory to Christian morality, but hold some truth in them. And he's really saying it's the doctrinal systems that he's trying to break man free from. That even something that's done in the name and done in the name of goodness could be wrong, could be bad. And he's trying to break the chains of these ideas of things. And he would much rather be seen as a heretic than be seen as somebody that professes to be so good, but in fact isn't.
heaven symbolizes the superego, the internalized social norms and rules taught by parents, institutions, and role models. Both are necessary. Problems arise when one dominates the other, such as acting out destructive impulses or succumbing to excessive conformity. Blake writes, "He who desires but acts not breeds pestilence." In other words, repressed contents become dangerous, for they create neurosis.
Think of people that never went and chased their dreams. Damn, I literally said the same thing on my the Members Only stream when I was talking about marriage of heaven and hell. Think about people that never chase their dreams, and they see someone that's chasing their dreams. Yeah, those are gonna be the people that try to tear those people down the most because they want to keep you on the level. They want to keep you in the same spot that they are. They don't want to see anybody go out and actually accomplish their dreams. They want to nip it in the bud, even if it's something completely diametrically opposed to, what they were trying to do. Even if it has no relation to them, they don't want other people to live out their idealized life because they never could. Like deconstructing authors culturally and contextual milieu. Hope that's how you say that. Have you read any Blake Hypnaudio? I think you would really like Blake. I also think you would like Dante too if you haven't read Dante. Those are like two of my top five authors right now, I would say. Like I don't Dante doesn't make sense to me because it's like it's just too good. It really is like everything that you ever could hope to learn is in the works of Dante. Any noble idea, anything that you could ever hope to grasp is somewhere hidden in that. And it's one of those works I feel like you could read a billion times and never get, never fully understand. Have a different experience every time. And it's almost like what Joyce tried to do with Ulysses is that like every line could be debated. It's the same exact thing, but it's written in beautiful poetry. And I'm not even reading the original. Like I can't even imagine the original. I can't even imagine like a close reading of the Italian version of the Divine Comedy.
And can erupt uncontrollably. By bringing unconscious psychic energy into consciousness, potentially destructive impulses can be sublimated into constructive or creative expressions. In this way, fire becomes a symbol of the creative forces of the unconscious, the flames of
And what he means by sublimation, I feel like he described it, but taking the bad aspects of yourself and turning them into good. And this is a very important idea in Jungian psychology, where you have to kind of tamper down the parts of yourself that aren't necessarily beneficial, the parts of yourself that you don't necessarily like. Send me Mario doesn't say. That made me laugh way too hard for how stupid that was. It was so dumb. Why did it make me laugh that hard? But think about it this way, like there's no really bad qualities you have to yourself. Emerson said something along the lines of there's no trait in man that is good or bad. Like Napoleon's ego is what led him to conquer Europe, but his ego is also what led to his downfall. Turned gooning into writing instead. There's I hate that that's actually true. There's something to that. There's like there really is something to what you're saying. But stop making like dad jokes because you're just cracking me up too much. I need it's ruining my train of thought. There's no such thing as a bad trait because, like I said, Napoleon's ego was what led him to conquer Europe, but it's also what led him to be ultimately defeated. And it's the same thing in you. Like your biggest downfall in your traits, your biggest downfall in your characteristics could make you make up for something in a whole nother way. So it's like it could be either your source of destruction or your source of inspiration. There's no such thing as a perfect quality or perfect person. They always have some sort of insecurity, and it's how do we deal with these things? And it's the same thing with your personality trait too. Like I'm a very I can get very passionate about something really stupid, and 15 minutes later, not feel that way. Like I used to think when I was younger I had anger issues, but it was really just like I could get really into something and then ride that wave of emotion and use it to destroy myself or use it to do something productive. So like to me, is it worth it for me to get angry at things or is it worth it for me to spend that 10, 15 minutes of pure emotion, of pure energy to something productive, whether it's writing, whether it's spending time with people I love, like, our emotions are just energy and we're a battery and we can only use them so much. So like to me to get angry, to me to overreact to something, it's a waste of the time I could spend doing something I love. It's a waste of a time that I can tell somebody in my life that I love them or tell somebody in my life how much they mean to me. And it's really important to start noticing these things because it's like the 12-step program. I always quote this. I don't know if I'm right about this. I'm assuming I'm right, but I could be wrong. But the first step is admitting you have a problem. The first step is understanding the problem, understanding that something's not right so that you can curtail it. And this is really the important aspect of Jungian psychology is to understand where you fall short. Understand your characteristics that aren't serving you, aren't benefiting you or hampering you so that you can then find an outlet to it. You can then sublimate it to something else. Wow, that was a very long tangent for just that. We are not our thoughts or opinions. They are like rooms and clothes. Staying grounded, remember. Okay. It's an interesting way of put I like that. That's a good way of
of
putting it.
inspiration, and perhaps even the means of salvation. For fire burns away everything that is superfluous. Only the essential survives the fire. One of the central figures in Blake's mythology is Lus, who is frequently associated to the labors of a blacksmith in his forge, heating metal in the furnace and shaping it on the anvil with his hammer, a symbol of creative work. His ultimate task is to redeem humanity from its fallen state through the divine spark of imagination, restoring man's original vision of unity in a benevolent.
So to Blake, Los was this force of creativity, and to Blake, Los was this ultimate liberator of man. And it was diametrically opposed to Urizen, I think that's how you say it, or Urizen, something like that. And basically that was Blake's god of order and Blake's god of servitude. And to Blake, only Los could break the chains of monotony. To Blake, only Los could destroy this lack of creativity. who like to, dude, I don't, it was a joke. Fine. I don't take anything seriously. You're good. I hope you know I'm joking. Like, I really hope that's a joke. I would never be mad at you, man. Don't worry.
universe. Loss also takes the form of the bard,
That's why I timed you out for 10 seconds. If I was mad, I would have timed you out for like 24 hours.
a redemptive agent who has transcended the realm of experience, having seen through the veil that conceals the benevolent unity of the universe, which for others appears flawed or evil. Having awakened, the bard sympathetically cries out to the masses of the earth, calling man to rise to his level of consciousness, suggesting that he too was once oblivious to such a vision. However, while all contain the capacity for this growth, not all achieve it.
You don't have to do
Some
that, man. Thank you so much for the super chat. That should I time you out again? For not getting- No, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It means the world to me that one, people want to listen to me ramble and just say random shit and not really like tie anything together. And two, that anybody would like even donate. Never feel the need to do it. Thank you so much. I feel something like I feel like a warmth in my soul. Like it's so cool to do something you enjoy doing and anybody like give you pennies for it. It's awesome. So I don't know if it covers the emotional damage, but it does something. I'm joking. It more I feel so bad. Like it's weird to see, you know what I mean? Like I don't because I do this because I love it. It's not like it feels weird like taking anything. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm lost for words. That should show you how thankful I am because I can waffle for 4 hours about anything. So just it means the world to me. Thank you so much. I can't believe this is free. Is my thing, dude. The thing is like I wouldn't want to charge for information. I would like I see like charging for books. I see like charging for stuff like that. Um, like I get that stuff, but like because then you're getting something physical. But like I feel bad like charging for like information or things like because any information I get, you can learn from Dante, or you can learn from Blake, or you can learn from somebody that's like can put it in a coherent way. I can't do that. Hypnaudio, thanks for becoming a member. What is going on? This is like, what is going on? Thank you so much. Thank you, Hypnaudio. All knowledge Vino has inestimable. I don't think I have that much knowledge. I genuinely don't. I think it's just my memory. I don't really. I think I'm like good at tying things together. That's it. I don't really think I'm like that smart. Like everyone's like, oh, like I've heard people like, oh, you should do an IQ test. I don't want to do an IQ test because then you guys would know how dumb I am. You see like 97 IQ, you're like, oh God, we shouldn't listen to this guy. Who's that who's that one guy? Who's it? Is it Togi? I think that's how you say it. He got like a 70 IQ on stream. I don't know if he's trolling or not, I can't tell. But that was one of the funniest things. And then who's that guy that does like the voice and he like trolls is it Matan? I think that's how you say it. I've never heard anyone say his name, but he was like, "Oh, what's your IQ?" He's like, and the other guy's like, "I don't know." He's like, "Yes, you do. No, you did it on stream. You got 70." That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, we're getting off topic here. Charge for the information, YouTube selling yours. I mean, I have like books and stuff you could buy, but I don't want to I don't want to be like, "Oh, you gotta pay for secret information or secret knowledge." I feel like that's kind of like one, it's like I don't think the right people will find it if you do that. Because when you put things behind a paywall, then you make it like exclusive and it's not going to spread to the right people. I'd rather just make money off of like the ads that you just skip right away that nobody actually watches. Like I'd rather do that. You know what I mean? Where like if anybody's interested in what I have to say, YouTube can pay me. Togi got baptized. Crazy is. That's good for him. Secret information you can buy isn't secret. Well, I would say like because people are like against paying for course. Like there's certainly some merit to it, but the only merit in buying courses is that you actually this is the funniest part. Like I don't necessarily think like courses like if you pay for it, like it's not information you get online, but because you invested into it, you take it more serious. And I think that's the only reason why courses are valuable is the fact that you take it serious because you put some money behind it, if that makes sense. Like genuinely, like that's why I'll never like charge a lot for anything I sell is because I don't think it's ever worth it. I think it's stuff you can get somewhere else. And like if any like you know what I mean? I don't I don't that's not really my way of doing things. Ad revenue is what's up. Yeah, I mean it's decent. Even on the streams I get like a lot more ad revenue than I do on videos because people watch for longer. So even like on the streams like I you don't need to donate. I still make money off of it. It's fine. Don't worry.
Remain in
The fact that
experience.
anybody wants to.
The bard realizes that his
I have to pay for books. Books aren't that expensive though. What else do I buy? I don't buy like, dude, I don't even buy clothes. People just give me clothes. Like, I expect McKinsey quality courses if I'm paying for anything. Courses are a tough sell for me. But is McKinsey even good at selling courses? You know what I mean? Like, I guess they're selling you practical skills and stuff like that. Maybe it's worth that. I don't know. I don't really even know what you're. I know McKinsey the company. I don't know their courses.
falling condition is not
But even those stuff, like even like the bar prep material, it's not that great. It's not anything you can't do yourself. Like a lot of this stuff, it's like they just took the time to like piece it together and somewhat guide you through your studies. But a lot of stuff you can just study yourself. It's even like college. Like a lot of the college education you can get, especially with humanities or classics, you can read all that stuff yourself. It's just they're gonna focus you and they're gonna kind of guide you, and that's really what you're paying for. And sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not.
final but transformative, for without a prior fall, there can be no subsequent redemption. He also perceives time differently. Past, present, and future exist simultaneously. This fusion of time belongs to eternity and stands apart from the ordinary temporal condition of fallen humanity.
It's so weird how Blake has all these like Gnostic themes in his writing, but he wasn't like a Gnostic in the sense like there's no evidence he ever studied Gnosticism or read any of the works that become like what people classify as Gnosticism.
It forms a vertical, timeless axis that intersects the horizontal flow of time at every moment, offering a still point within the ever-moving world. Through creative work, we may at times enter the eternal now, a realm beyond space and time, where self-consciousness fades and we become fully immersed in the act of creation. This
He
is
said
the
his
flow
next word.
state. He who learns to live in the present is truly free from
Okay, so this is where spirituality and creativity kind of coincide. It's the same thing with prayer. It's the same thing with all of these like they're not occult practices, but they are at the same time. Like mindfulness practices. They all kind of get you to this higher state of consciousness, this higher state of being, this higher state of awareness. And this is where you could kind of get into this state of creativity. Think of our everyday existence as like we're kind of down here. You're tying your shoes, you're going to work, you're doing the things you do out of habit. Whereas creativity kind of exists up here. And it's only when we get into these higher states, it's only when we calm our mind that we're open to things that are not necessarily us, but of a higher order, of a higher state. It sounds so stupid. It sounds so like new agey, but it really is true that like in order to focus, you have to first clear your mind. Try not to think of $100 bill. You just did. How do we focus on something? It's by calming our mind down. It's by getting away from all of our thoughts. It's by stopping ourselves from trying to control the world is the simplest way of thinking of meditation. That's I like the way of I like that way of thinking about it.
All worries, for tomorrow never comes. For Blake, our true nature comes from what he calls the poetic genius. He writes that the poetic genius is the true man, and that the body or outward form of man is derived from the poetic genius. Likewise, that the forms of all things are derived from their genius, which by the ancients was called an angel and spirit.
You do mantra what mantra do you use? Okay. Is my understanding of mantra meditation correct? You just repeat a word until it sounds like gibberish and it reminds you of how much or how little things are important, how little things matter. It allows you to like focus on one thing, and as it becomes nonsense, then it kind of clears your head. Is that how it works? There's something to it. I'm good at meditating already without using a mantra. Um, the secret. I've never felt the need to do it because I can get into a state of meditation otherwise. But maybe I should try it at some point. There's a Robert Anton Wilson. There's a video. I'll send it to you. No, you'll probably enjoy it. He found this mantra, and if you use it, it like works in like 5 seconds. It's like crazy. But I've never done it for prolonged periods. But I know like there's yogis who they get into certain positions. They get into certain yoga positions. Whoever has a dirty mind, get that out of your head. But they get into certain yoga positions and they'll repeat the same word for like a day straight.
Spirit and demon. As all men are alike, though infinitely various, so all religions and as all similars have one source. The true man is the source, he being the poetic genius. The poetic genius is the creative spirit within us all, which is of divine origin. It is the aspect of the psyche that strives towards unity. The word poet comes from the Greek poien, meaning
You do it for 20 minutes? Why'd you pay $600 for that? I could have told you. Dude, come on. Pay me $600. I'll teach you that. That's that's what I mean. Dude, what you I hope you got a deep understanding of it, because that's like I did it help you that course? Because whenever I see something like that, if it really helps you, like some of the meditative practices I've learned, I would pay like endless amounts of money to learn. So like it really just is like if it helps you that much, it definitely is worth it. Mantras are good if the mind is really active or emotional. Mantra can cut through the thinking. Okay, so after this stream, I want you guys to. I did a video on this book. It's titled something. Just type Syllable Mind Control Method on my channel. You'll find it. And don't go to the video of me reviewing the book. Go to the video of me going through the first chapter where it talks about meditation. And that's the best method I've seen to hack your way out of crazy thoughts. Is you have to like gradually train it. But basically, if you count down from 10 repeatedly, it's similar to a mantra, but you do it in your head. And I wonder if that's the same thing. But that's the best thing I found to calm my mind down. Count down from 10.
to
You're doubtful the whole time until it worked out. You were surprised. Yeah, dude, a deep state of meditation is worth whatever money it takes to get to it. It's like 4 days in a row, multiple hours in a group. Okay, that's why it was so much. That makes sense then.
make or bring forth. Thus, a poet is literally a maker or a creator. In Roman mythology, the genius was a personal guardian spirit present at birth, shaping one's character and destiny. Though today the term is usually used
I wonder if this is Socrates is daemon.
used to describe someone of exceptional talent or ability. The ancient Greeks called this guiding spirit a daimon, and he
Oh my God, why do I keep doing this? Every time I say something, it says like the next sentence.
who followed it could experience eudaimonia, a state of good spirit and fulfillment. By attending to our true nature, we participate in the imaginative process and in the creation of our own myth. In doing so, we follow the path of the poetic genius. This creative spirit is the source underlying all art and myth. Blake's visionary works
Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. What does that even mean? Why do I know? Why does that sound so familiar, dude? What is? I really don't want to look this up. What, dude? You just brought back like a repressed memory. I have to look this up. Dude, why have I've never watched the show, but I've seen the ad. You just brought back like the agony of having to watch the ads for the show. Thank you for that. Is that the whole point of the show that you can do anything for 10 seconds?
seeks to restore
Or is
what
that just something
ancients
they
called the
said?
Golden Age, not as a period in the past or future, but as the realization that God and man were one in
This is the entire, so Blake has like a few works that are very like significant. There's the Four Zoas, there's Marriage of Heaven and Hell, there's the Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience, and then there's Jerusalem, which it's not about like the place Jerusalem, it's about the idea that man could wake up from his sleep. Man could wake up and Albion could be, okay, how do I say this? The old word for England is Albion, which means a sleeping giant. And the whole point of Jerusalem is that man could awaken and once again be reunited with God. I completely butchered that in the beginning. It's a very simple idea, but that's what the work of Jerusalem is. Very interesting, very weird. Um, it's like the Red Book. You really can't understand what it's saying. It's like a prophetic vision, but it's tremendous what you can get from it. I saw the first episode, and the commercial's probably like a decade ago. You brought back a piece of my memory I never wanted to remember. Thank you for doing
paradise, and they still are, even though the illusions of the physical world often obscure this unity. The visionary perceives it directly, and the great works of art affirm it.
Am I sleeping giant? I guess you could say that. Dude, I went to Mexico last week and I was like the people like the workers there were like all like a lot like not all of them, but like a lot of them were like much shorter than me. And I've never felt so tall in my life. Like it was very weird. Like I forgot because I guess I'm around like taller people because my family's not short and the people that I'm near, but like I was around a lot of shorter people and it was very like it felt like I was like tall for the first time again. Because I'm used to like people don't look at me crazy, like or I'm used to the way people look at me, but it was like when I first got my growth spurt where people were like starting to notice how tall I was. That's how I felt again. It was weird.
Blake saw the artist's task as helping humanity regain Eden, to leave behind that state of delusion that we are separate from our spiritual nature. Art is therefore prophetic, revealing the true pattern of human life. The artist must sacrifice himself to become the mouthpiece of the zeitgeist or spirit of the age. Modern art, for example, often shows alienation, anxiety, or disorder, reflecting what is happening in a society. In this way, the
And I think the easiest way to see the state of society is to see the state of the art. Like just think about the music that's popular today. It's all horrific. It's all terrible. Again, it's controlled by various entities and various people that have a motivation why it's so bad, but it's very indicative of the culture. It's very indicative of the society as a whole. And when we see art becoming better and we see art becoming higher and greater and more aspirational, That's where we really see a return to values. Going to Mexico? Well, I didn't go anywhere that's like bad. Like I was far from the bad stuff. And like the tourism's such a big aspect of the country's GDP. Like I don't think they would maybe if things go like really really bad, but I don't think the resort industry would get destroyed. I think there's too much money behind it, and let's be real, the people behind it are also the people that were causing the ruckus. So like they've invested in everything, man. It's like I don't think they want to hurt their own business, we'll say.
The artist gives us a distant early warning of what is happening to our culture. The question is, can we decipher the meaning? James Joyce writes, "Welcome, O life. I go to encounter for the millionth time the reality of experience and to forge in the smithy of my soul the uncreated conscience of my race."
I was about to say no way he's quoting Joyce because you can't make sense of any Joyce, but I saw it was so this is like Joyce's I don't know if Dubliners was published before Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, but this is Joyce's first novel, and it's somewhat a self-insert of his experience growing up trying to be an artist. Very, very good book. And if you don't want to read Ulysses and you want to read Joyce, read this book, because it does have the hard aspects of his writing, but it's so much easier to understand. You're only 6 feet tall and seriously in the top 5% in terms of height where I live. People are short in Latin America. Wow. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, because I don't know, like I wasn't sure if it was just the people I was seeing, but it seemed like overall like the average height was shorter. People stop you in banks to ask you why banks? Oh, in the banks. I was like, no wait, I was right in the bank to ask you about it. Is it every time you go to the bank? Usually now it's just like old ladies asking me like, oh, how tall are you? Or kids. Kids like see me and they're they like they think I'm like a celebrity or like a basketball player. And I break their heart every time I tell them no.
Every creative encounter is a new event. Each one demands an assertion of courage. The task is as arduous as the blacksmith's labor of bending red-hot iron in his forge to make something of value for human life. Conscience is not handed down ready-made, but is created through the inspiration of the artist, who seeks to express the inner voice rising from the depths of his being.
Okay, I'm starting to get tired here. I think I'm gonna end the stream. I still have to cook a little bit, but I don't know if I'm gonna stream tomorrow or Sunday. I'm definitely gonna do the members only stream on Sunday, but I don't. That's not significant to anyone that's not a member, and I already made a post about it. But yeah, you should see me a lot more next week because I'm back from vacation, and yeah, this was a good fun stream. I think we had a great time, interesting conversation. We'll continue this video, possibly the next one, and then Loribel sent me this as well so that we can go through that. And yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. It was a good time. Thank you for everyone that donated and everything else. It means the world to me that anybody cares about this enough to take the time to do that and to it's just a marvel to me. So thank you guys so much. I will catch you in the next one. Peace out. Have a good rest of your night.